The notification buzzed on my phone at 2:17 p.m. that Thursday afternoon. Credit monitoring alert. New inquiry on your credit report. First National Bank. Loan application, $200,000. I froze in the driver's seat parked outside the grocery store. I hadn't applied for any loans. My stomach tightened as I opened my banking app. There it was. A hard inquiry from First National Bank for a commercial real estate loan. The application submitted yesterday included my social security number, employment information, and even what looked like my electronic signature. I knew exactly who had access to that information. My sister had been living in my guest room for the past 6 months, saving money after her divorce. During that time she had endless opportunities to photograph my documents, memorize my SSN and watch how I signed digital forms. I drove home and there she was, in the kitchen making lunch with groceries I'd bought. She looked up with a smile. "Hey sis. How was your day?" "Interesting," I said, setting my purse on the counter. "I got a credit alert about a loan application I didn't submit." Her expression barely flickered. "That's weird. Probably identity theft. You should call the bank and report it." "Good idea," I replied evenly. "I'll do that right now." I called First National Bank. After verifying my identity, a loan officer named Marcus Chun confirmed the details. "Yes, Ms. Davis. We have your application here. $200,000 for a rental property on Maple Street. Submitted electronically yesterday with full documentation." "I didn't submit that application," I said firmly. "Someone used my personal information without permission." Marcus sighed. "We'll need to investigate. Can you come in tomorrow to review the application and give a statement?" "Absolutely." "What time?" 2 p.m. Bring photo ID and any evidence of fraud." When I hung up, Rebecca was still scrolling through real estate listings, muttering things like "perfect investment property. This neighborhood is really up and coming." That night, while she was out, I began my own investigation. As a software security specialist, I kept meticulous records. My home office had backup cameras, keystroke logs, and network access histories. The evidence was damning. Video footage. Rebecca at my desk 2 days earlier, combing through my files and practicing my signature. Keystroke logs. Her accessing my password manager, bank information, and tax returns. Network records. Her laptop uploading large files to cloud storage. Audio recordings. My smart assistant captured her calls when she used trigger words like loan application and signature. In one recording she told someone, "I need this loan. My sister will never find out. I'll just use her info, buy the property, and pay her back from the rental income." The next day I walked into First National Bank with a thick folder of evidence. Marcus reviewed the forged application and shook his head. "This is sophisticated fraud. Whoever did this knew your details inside out." "I know exactly who it was," I said. "My sister Rebecca." When I showed him the video footage, Marcus's expression hardened. "We need to involve law enforcement. This is a $200,000 federal case. I'm calling the FBI." Within hours, Special Agent Sarah Martinez arrived. After reviewing my documentation, she nodded. "Miss Davis, this is some of the most comprehensive fraud evidence I've ever seen. Your sister has been planning this for weeks. We'll be filing charges for bank fraud, identity theft, and computer crimes. She's looking at 5 to 10 years in federal prison." That evening, Rebecca was in the living room gushing about a property listing. "Sarah, look at this one. 3 bedrooms under market value. It's perfect. I'm thinking of making an offer." "That sounds expensive," I said lightly. "How are you planning to finance it?" "Oh, I've got savings," she waved a hand. "Plus, I might be able to get a loan based on my income potential." I smiled. "Makes sense." The next morning my phone rang. Rebecca's panicked voice cut through. "Sarah, the FBI is at the house. They have a search warrant. They're taking my laptop and phone. They're asking about fraud." "What's going on?" "I have no idea," I said calmly. "You should cooperate with them completely." 2 hours later, Agent Martinez called. "We've arrested your sister." At first she denied everything. But when confronted with the video, she admitted it. She insists it wasn't theft because she planned to pay the loan back, but intent doesn't erase federal fraud. By evening the entire family knew. The phone wouldn't stop ringing. My mother sobbed, How could you do this to your own sister? Family should stick together. Mom, I said quietly, Rebecca stole my identity. He tried to saddle me with $200,000 in debt. That's not family. My brother Michael took my side. Honestly, I can't believe she thought she could get away with this with you, the one person who documents everything. But my cousin Lisa was furious. You could have just told her no if she wanted you to co-sign. Did you really have to destroy her life with charges? I hung up the phone, staring at the stack of evidence on my desk. Rebecca thought I was too trusting to notice. He was wrong. Lisa, I didn't co-sign anything. Rebecca forged my signature and stole my identity to commit bank fraud. This wasn't about me refusing to help her. It was about her committing federal crimes. You're being dramatic, Lisa scoffed. It's just paperwork. It's $200,000 in fraudulent debt that I would have been legally responsible for. If Rebecca's plan had worked, I could have lost my house, my savings, and my credit rating. The preliminary hearing was held a week later. I testified about the evidence I'd collected and explained how Rebecca had systematically gathered my personal information over several weeks. Her defense attorney tried to frame the situation as a misunderstanding between sisters, claiming Rebecca thought she had permission to use my information. But the recordings told a different story. The prosecutor played an audio clip of Rebecca's voice. My sister is so trusting and disorganized. She never checks her credit reports or bank statements carefully. I can probably get away with this for months before she notices anything. The judge was not sympathetic. Miss Davis, he said sternly, regardless of your personal circumstances, loan fraud involving $200,000 is a serious federal crime. The evidence shows clear premeditation and deception. Rebecca was bound over for trial on charges of bank fraud, identity theft, wire fraud, and computer crimes. Bail was set at $75,000. Money she didn't have. While she sat in federal detention awaiting trial, I received a visit from her divorce attorney, David Walsh. Miss Davis, I represent your sister in her divorce proceedings. I wanted to discuss the impact these criminal charges may have on her case. What kind of impact? I asked. Well, her ex-husband is now seeking full custody of their children. He's citing the fraud charges as proof that Rebecca is unfit. He's also requesting a psychological evaluation before any custody arrangement. I folded my arms. I see. David hesitated. Rebecca asked me to speak with you about possibly dropping the charges. She's willing to plead guilty to lesser counts if you'll ask the prosecutor to reduce the penalties. Mr. Walsh, these are federal charges. I can't drop them even if I wanted to. The FBI and federal prosecutors are handling this case based on the evidence. But you're the victim. Your opinion carries weight. My opinion, I said firmly, is that someone who commits premeditated fraud involving $200,000 should face the legal consequences. Rebecca didn't make a mistake. She planned and executed a sophisticated scheme to steal my identity and defraud a bank. David looked frustrated. Miss Davis, your sister is facing 8 to 10 years in federal prison. Her children will grow up without their mother. Is that really what you want? What I wanted, I replied evenly, was for Rebecca to get legitimate help with her financial problems instead of committing federal crimes using my identity. She made her choices. 3 months later, overwhelmed by the evidence and the looming trial, Rebecca accepted a plea bargain. She pled guilty to bank fraud and identity theft in exchange for a reduced sentence of 4 years in federal prison. At sentencing, she was allowed to make a statement. Your Honor, I know what I did was wrong. I was desperate after my divorce and I thought I could handle this without anyone getting hurt. I never meant to damage my sister's credit or put her in financial jeopardy. She turned to me in the gallery. Sarah, I'm sorry. I know you trusted me and I betrayed that trust. I thought I could fix everything before you found out, but I realize now how stupid and selfish that was. The judge sentenced her to 4 years in federal prison followed by 3 years of supervised probation. She was also ordered to pay $25,000 in restitution to cover the bank's investigation costs. After the hearing, Agent Martinez approached me. How do you feel about the outcome? Relieved, I admitted. Rebecca needed to face consequences, but I'm glad she accepted responsibility instead of forcing a trial. Your documentation made this case airtight, Martinez said. Without your digital evidence, it would have been much harder to prove premeditation and planning. I nodded. I learned early in my cybersecurity career that digital crimes always leave digital evidence. Rebecca assumed I was too trusting or too naive to catch her. 6 months later, I received a letter from prison. Dear Sarah, I've had a lot of time to think about why I did what I did. I was angry about my divorce, scared about my financial future, and jealous of your stability and success. Instead of asking for help, I chose betrayal. If the bank had approved that loan, you would have been legally responsible for $200,000 in debt you didn't create. I risked your entire future to fix my temporary problems. I don't expect forgiveness, but I now understand why you had to report me. You weren't snitching, you were protecting yourself. There's a difference. I hope someday we can rebuild our relationship, but I know I destroyed your trust. I proved that I was willing to ruin your life to fix mine. Rebecca. I never responded. Rebecca served 3.5 years before being released on good behavior. She now lives in another state and has supervised visitation with her children every other weekend. Our mother still insists I should have handled it within the family, instead of involving law enforcement. She calls it a family misunderstanding. But loan fraud isn't a family misunderstanding. Identity theft isn't a family problem. When someone forges your signature and submits a $200,000 loan application using your identity, it's a federal crime, whether the perpetrator is a stranger or your sister. Rebecca gambled that family loyalty would shield her. She assumed I would be too shocked, too embarrassed, or too concerned about appearances to pursue charges. He was wrong. Family doesn't grant immunity from the law. Trust broken by premeditated fraud isn't restored with apologies. And anyone willing to sacrifice your future for their convenience has already shown how little they value you. I kept detailed digital records because it's my profession, but also because predators count on victims being too trusting, too disorganized, or too conflict-averse to fight back. Rebecca spent weeks planning her fraud, confident I'd never discover it. My security cameras, keystroke logs, audio recordings, and network data proved her wrong. Sometimes protecting yourself means prosecuting the people who are supposed to love you. Sometimes family loyalty means loyalty to truth and law, not to criminal behavior. And sometimes the people who tell you to handle it within the family are the same people who would never risk their own financial security to protect yours. The morning the FBI burst into Rebecca's room wasn't just the sound of justice. It was the sound of consequences catching up with someone who thought family ties made her untouchable. They didn't.